Hello, welcome. I am here at GameTown doing more interviews, talking to more devs, joined by a very special guest. Would you mind telling me who you are and what you do?
Thank you. My name is Johanna Kasurinen. I am a narrative designer and art lead at Wrong Organ.
I've talked to a couple of the other folks from Wrong Organ. I'm very excited to talk with you, especially because I think the most effective parts of Mouthwashing are the narrative design. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. It caused me to reflect a lot on myself and who I am. It is an amazing example of projecting yourself onto some of these characters in ways that make you really think about who you are. Mouthwashing was my favorite game of 2024. Nothing was close. Like that. Nothing was close. What are your major inspirations as a writer?
First of all, thank you. Thank you so much. Major inspirations. I mean, I guess it's a very vague answer, but pretty much all of the sort of moments in both games that I've been able to release come from directly from my life. It might be surprising to hear that, but what I tend to sort of do with my creative process is if I'm going through something in my life that's usually, at least with How Fish is Made and Mouthwashing, negative circumstances in my life, I tend to when I'm processing those times, I go, okay, how can I write about this? But I don't want to write literally about something. So I used to work in marketing before becoming a game developer, basic office job. I used to be kind of regretful that I went to the business route because I was too scared to pursue a creative career when I was younger. So I was like, okay, well, I can do marketing, and if I can do marketing in games, that's good enough for me. So I was doing this desk job for many years and studied for it for many years. And then I would kind of feel oh, that was wasted time now that I'm a game developer and the rest of our team is quite a bit younger than I am. But actually, what I have also noticed now is that a lot of the ideas for our games have come from experiences that I had pursuing that degree and working in an office. So How Fish is Made was directly referencing my time in the industry in a cubicle job.
I kind of do the same thing. I write in my free time a bit, and a lot of it is geared games are my favorite kind of art, so I naturally gravitate toward writing game-related stuff. I had a similar thing where I did jury duty. It was I played Mouthwashing and went to jury duty, and then I had to write about it because it was just stuff like that. I was talking with Kai and Jeff. They told me about you. I was like, who wrote Mouthwashing? Because you guys do other things. Who wrote it? And they're like, oh, Johanna. And then they told me their age, and I was like, the person that wrote Mouthwashing has to be closer to my age. You can't write something like that without more lived experience. Something that I like to ask outside of games, and this is kind of half answered, what other pieces of media that aren't games inspire your work within games?
I feel everyone's a huge movie and TV buff, but yeah, definitely I watch a lot of movies. Mouthwashing was very heavily directly inspired by Memento by Christopher Nolan. I'm a huge fan of Nolan's movies, but Memento inspired the structure of Mouthwashing. It's very obvious once I sort of bring it up. And I think what I like about his work is that he's very efficient also with dialogue and stuff, especially some of his earlier work, which is also something I was trying to emulate in Mouthwashing. He's one of my favorites, but then I am just a huge horror fan in general. Horror novels and horror movies. Stephen King is it's such a basic answer. I mean, Christopher Nolan is also a basic answer, but Stephen King's works are hugely inspirational. There's a lot of The Shining in Mouthwashing. I mean, you can really tell.
I know your pitch was Twin Peaks in space, but really for me, what I felt it is The Shining.
Yeah.
The insanity of the main character is kind of it's growing, and there's this sense of isolation and hopelessness that's well, it, I might as well just do horrible things, right? The name Mouthwashing, can you kind of bring me up on where that came from and kind of the meaning behind it? Because I have my own ideas, of course, of interpreting it, but it would be really interesting to know. And I was told that the name was pretty early. You kind of came to them with Twin Peaks in space, but you kind of always knew it was going to be called Mouthwashing.
Yeah, Mouthwashing was one of those creative processes, I guess, you always want to have as a creative, where I almost instantly knew exactly what I wanted to do. And you always wish for that moment, and you can't kind of force it to come. But I directly remember just laying in bed, couldn't sleep at night, and we had just kind of started thinking about, okay, what are we gonna do as our first game as a company, or officially as our first game as a company. And I was thinking about the stuff that I'd been going through in my life, and then it just all kind of clicked into place, where I was like, how can I tell this story without actually telling the story? Yeah, it never had a working title. One of my coworkers even commented after I pitched the game to them, oh, I like the working title, Mouthwashing. I was kind of can we just call it that? Because I thought I would get pushback and they would be like, no, it's too weird or whatever. But yeah, the name, I mean, obviously aside from the fact that there's a bunch of mouthwash in the game, it has a couple of different like ways in which I thought it was appropriate. One being that the game is, people talk a lot about the themes of like redemption or covering up something. So I was thinking of mouthwash as this way of like trying to clean something. And mouthwash by itself is not effective in completely, so you can't just like only mouthwash and not, you know, brush your teeth. So that kind of related to the themes of the game, where one character is trying to fix something in very ineffective means and almost, you know, making sort of things worse in the process. But as long as it, you know, smells good, everything's fine. So it works like that. But then there are also like strong themes in the game of alcohol. So my thought was also it was like drinking, mouthwashing. So there's that connection as well.
That makes sense. It's such an apt comparison, too, for both of those things, because, yeah, by itself, mouthwash doesn't really do anything. It doesn't eliminate the root cause. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a flesh wound. And at the same time, people that are facing desperation, that are alcoholics or have a problem with that, resort to drinking mouthwash, which is not intended to be drank, but it's like serving this like primal need and addiction. The first line is kind of what like resonated with me, of like this ineffective thing that is tried to be used to fix everything. It obviously can't, but that second example is really, really interesting. Can you kind of tell me your journey from marketing into meeting the rest of the crew for mouthwashing? I kind of have a little bit of this already, but I'd love your perspective on that.
We went to a trade school called Future Games. So my story is that I have a degree in business. I did the corporate life for a bit, and then I was really like burnt out on that. And then I saw this like course pop up called Future Games in Stockholm, Sweden, 2 years trade school. And the big thing for me was that they didn't require you to know any programming. That was always what I thought would stop me from being a game developer, because it is very hard to be a narrative designer. I always tell you that, and just a writer. So I was like, okay, but I'd like to get into game design or something, but I'm really bad at anything maths or programming or anything. So I saw this course, and then I was just like, you know what, I might as well try. I hate this job, so I might as well quit, do the 2 years of school, and then if I fail horribly, I'll crawl back to the office job, and you know, at least I would have tried. It was a big like risk. Yes, and that was like the first time in my life I was actually making like quote unquote real money. So it was like I'm going back to the student loan budget and everything. But yeah, it ended up great. So I went to the design course in Future Games. My entry application, we had to make a game design document, was actually how fish is made. So I made the game design document for how fish is made, which is another project that was like very quickly like, oh, I know exactly what I want to do. So I wrote that, got into the school. On the first day of school, we were randomly assigned a partner to make our like first little game with. And my like random partner happened to be Martin, who is our composer and audio designer. And we hit it off like immediately. And it was really great because we had a week to make a small game. Just insane timeline now thinking about it. But it was like,
Right? Like,
yeah,
much,
exactly. But like going from knowing nothing about game making, we literally sat down. I was like, I know how to write and make art. And he's like, I know how to program and make music. And it was like, you know that meme of the two muscular hands grasping each other? So we made this fun little game, and it was great. Later on, we were just having lunch or something, and I had made the like 3D models for how fish is made for the game design application. I actually have like a full game because I don't know how to program, but I wanted to make all the assets and take screenshots as if I had done more than I did. So I like made the like menu stuff and everything, and then I went to like Procreate and I like created a fake screenshot.
Like
yeah, exactly.
Hey, man,
and I was like, this is how it would look and stuff. So I was just showing that stuff off because I would post it on my Twitter and stuff at the time during lunch, and Jeffrey happened to be at the table. And then I know that he kind of saw this opportunity where he's like, oh, like the assets and the narrative are pretty much done in this like really short game. Like we could just pump this out, because he's a really excellent programmer. So he just wanted to get like something into his portfolio. So then he just came over one day and was like, could we finish the fish game? And I'm like, let's go, let's do it. I know a music guy. And then we did that together. And then it was for the next project project that we brought in more people like Kai, who's our producer now.
In Jeff's interview, he was like, dude, it was like the easiest layup ever. I was like, so when you were saying like, yeah, I was told after How Fish Is Made, there was like really good reception. You got a lot of bigger creators. I think Markiplier played it and like some other big streamers, and because it's free and it like spread like wildfire. And then I heard a really funny plan that you guys had, which was we're gonna make Mouthwashing in 3 months. Can you kind of run me through that process? Others have, but again, your perspective is valuable.
Yeah, it was meant to be like a much smaller project. So the timeline of between How Fish Is Made and Mouthwashing, and I'm sure the other guys maybe mentioned it, there was one project supposed to be between How Fish Is Made and Mouthwashing that failed and completely blew up. And it was we spent a really long time on, or 6 months. Back then that was a really long time because we were doing it during school, like in our free time, and we had a bunch more people on, very talented people putting their free time into that. So it failing,
it's a tough situation.
Really, I took it really rough. But that was where the story of Mouthwashing came from. It's a group of people in a failing project, because that was the emotion I was trying to process. Like, how do I fix this? Because I was, I would like lie on my couch in the evenings and be like, how can I bring this to the finish line?
Yeah.
And we weren't able to. You have this thing and you know you should kill it. And then making that call is very rough. So that's where the idea for Mouthwashing came. But it did seem like, it's an enclosed space. We have like 5 rooms or something. 5 characters. I can't remember. Curly, Anya, Daisuke, Swansea, 4. Yeah, and like Polly, I guess. Yeah. Oh yeah. Fangamer merch. You can't buy him. This is fan made, by the way. He scared the cleaning lady really badly. One evening, I feel really bad about that. How Fish Is Made, we made in a month or 2, I remember. So we were like, yeah, 3 months seems fine. But no, like many game projects, it just dragged on. And there was very strongly that point. It comes in every game development cycle where you hit this you're like 70% done and you are so finished with the project. I'm like, I do not want to look at Mouthwash. I don't want to look at these stupid characters anymore. You've been looking at the script for 6 months at that point.
Play the first 10 minutes 50 times.
And you're like, and you see the same jokes over and over and you're like, is this funny anymore? Is this any good? So I definitely really badly got into that point where I'm like, is this any good? And I started to be like, I don't know if I want to even like release this. Like maybe we should just cancel it. I absolutely 100% thought that the game would like flop entirely. So the release day was like, I was very cynical. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm happy we released the game, but this game is like, thankfully we can just move on to the next thing. And we learned something. Having it blow up the way it did, and because it happened quite slowly, because we didn't have that much marketing either.
Was it like an immediate success? Or, because you hear so much in my business of like publishing, well, if it doesn't do well at your launch, like you're totally f***ed and you'll never come back from it and it's bad. And I don't think that's true. I really don't. Like, I think it's sound advice, but it's not always true. So with Mouthwashing, I remembered I didn't see really anything about it before it was actually out. And then once it was out, I just saw people saying like, this is the best narrative I've seen in a long time. This is like, it's crazy. And of course, like the visuals of Curly, the name too is so intriguing to me. Like, what the f could this mean? Like, so was it not an overnight blow up, like a trickle in and eventually just snowball, yeah?
Exactly. I had the exact same sentiment as you, because I worked at a publisher before as well, like a AAA one. What I would always hear there is that like the first weekend, that's it, that's your peak, and then it's gonna drop. So I was absolutely thinking like, okay, we're gonna have our peak at the first weekend. We'd done all the marketing we pretty much could. We had a publisher and we did like Next Fest, and that did pretty well. And we had a decent amount of wish lists and stuff, but nothing like crazy. Yeah, we had like no Twitter followers, but we were just trying to push stuff onto Twitter. But we've never been very good at social media, even now, unfortunately. We had done pretty much everything we could to try and push it, but it had like very moderate like wish lists and stuff. So I don't remember exactly how much it did like first weekend, but like because I thought it wouldn't do anything, so it even getting like, I don't remember the numbers at all, but like if we get 1,000 purchases, I would be over the moon. That would be amazing. Or I always thought about review amounts, so I was like, if we can get 400 reviews on our Steam page, I would be so happy. Because How Fish Is Made had like a couple thousand, and to us, like, cause it was such a small student project, that was like, we're the big dogs. Yeah, Swedish Game Awards. back then was a like student competition, and we got a bunch of nominations, and then we won Best Narrative. So yeah, we were very happy with How Fish Is Made. That was kind of the sentiment at the time, was like, Mouthwashing is not going to be a How Fish Is Made. Like, How Fish Is Made is literally the big fish. And then like I even had a friend who came to play test the game, and I don't think he liked it very much. Like
Mouthwashing?
Yeah, okay. Mouthwashing. It is a rough thing to play test when like the entire team is sitting around you and you're in a quiet room, like clicking through the text quietly, so I don't think he had a great time playing it. And then we were going home, we took an Uber together because we live nearby each other, and I was kind of telling him that sentiment where I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna be as good as How Fish Is Made, and that makes me so sad. And he's like, yeah, they can't all be winners. He was trying to like prep me for you know, which I appreciate, kind of like the honesty of it. I don't hold it against him. He's an incredible game designer himself. So then it was like first weekend did like better than I expected, so I'm like, hey, cool. Yeah, cool. Awesome. Like, at least the reviews aren't bad. And yeah, that was another thing. We had like pre-release reviews. They were good, but I was like, they're lying. I sort of didn't believe it. I thought it like maybe it might be like a critical darling, but then nobody really cares. So yeah, then it came out, and then it was a very strange phenomenon where like once the like fandom started picking up, it kind of became like a self-generating machine where we're like, oh, you would see like, okay, a little peak and then a drop, but then it would just go back up again, which I think is probably very like strange.
Especially Steam as a marketplace. Again, we'll get into marketing brain talk here, but Steam as a marketplace, you know, it's a lot of window shopping when there aren't discounts on something. So when you have something that's organically popular like that and there's fandoms, your community is really everything to push that. Yeah. Was there a particular piece of coverage, or 'cause there's obviously like a watershed moment of like doing pretty good, this is like a hit, like a critically acclaimed hit. Was there like somebody an influencer that covered it, or news article? Like what do you think really propelled it further?
It's the YouTubers. I think one of our like early big hitters who also played How Fish Is Made is a YouTuber called Manly Badass Hero. Okay. He covers pretty much all like indie horror, especially like retro horror game. He has a big audience. He was like one that we're like, okay, we gotta get him to play, and he had played How Fish Is Made, so we were like, okay, he probably will. So we were really happy to see him do that. So that video did really well. But then like the really big hitters started coming out, and I don't remember which ones were the like early ones. Jacksepticeye was definitely one of the early ones, because those are like the really big YouTubers. So those were definitely like the big pushes we saw. Mouthwashing is a game because it is so narrative heavy that there are a lot of people who are fans of Mouthwashing who have never played the game. They only watch YouTubers play it, and that's just sort of a reality that like it works for us in a marketing sense. But yeah, that's where a lot of the big fans came from. I
had discussed what I like to call the fear and hunger effect with Kai and Jeff a little bit too, is like how easy it is to kind of consume games, especially narrative-based games like that. So another reason that I'm here in Sweden accounts for 20% of the market on Steam, of Steam revenue, and a more than 1% of that comes from just repo. And Sweden being a relatively low population country, what's in the water in Sweden? What makes devs either gravitate to come here, and why are the games that are coming out of here so effective from a business standpoint?
Yeah, I've wondered the same thing myself, even having lived here as a gamer for like close to 10 years now, and having worked in like the AAA companies and now the indie scene, because there are a lot of gaming companies here. So I don't actually know like the history of if there was like an investment push in like gaming and tech around here, because like even where we're sitting now, Game Town, which is like a co-working space only for game developers, is in the middle of a part of town that is like where all the gaming studios are. So it's almost like there's a part of the city that's a gaming district. Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I get it has to be some kind of economical thing, a push from the government or something. I'm not sure.
How long have you been in Sweden?
I think I'm at like 9 years or something. I can't remember the year that I got here. No, I think it was 2016. So I'm 9-10 years now. Oh my God. Oh, don't remind me.
I'm sorry. When you consider narrative and when you go to write, you like to write from like personal experience, but do you have any, I know a lot of writers have like ritual mood or a certain thing that you have to do. Do you have anything like that? Any ritual?
Nothing like crazy. Unfortunately, I am the George R.R. Martin type of writer, as opposed to Stephen King, because I get like, writer's block all the time. I'm very precious about like, I guess, the conditions I'm writing in. I recently discussed with one of our coworkers about Brandon Sanderson. He has like a crazy output as well, and I just look at that, I'm like, why can't I be like that? But my kind of process, I like working in the hybrid model. So sometimes I like writing at home, but then sometimes I do also need to be in the office. So I like getting a bit of like a changing space for that. And then I tend to listen to like music that I like, but like, what is it, like the lyricless version? So the instrumentals or like movie soundtracks and stuff. And then, yeah, I guess otherwise there isn't a whole lot like kind of in that sense. He's feeling all better now. His teeth are made of fingernails, like false fingernails. I don't think I really have anything all that special that I can kind of mention.
Do you have any advice for people trying to get into creating indie games?
I would say especially from like a writing and art perspective, my big thing is always try and do something unexpected. It's like the most simple and common advice, but it's the most difficult, I feel like, to like pull off, because there's a type of like surprising you try to be where it's like, and then a hawk flew in from the window, and that's not interesting. It has to be like surprising in a way that has substance. I think that was a big thing. I don't know if you want me to talk like spoilers, mouth-washing spoilers ahead. I knew early on that the like twist of Jimmy having crashed the ship, I knew a lot of people would call that twist. I was like, it's not such a like crazy mastermind twist, and a lot of people do when I watch like the YouTube videos and stuff. So I'm like, that can't be the only twist that's in the story. There has to be a twist after the twist. The reason he crashed it is the twist, and I feel like that's the one that people don't actually see coming, and that is sort of, I feel, also the plot point that really kind of sold the game. Being surprising. And I also have like one thing which I weirdly enough comes from fashion that I've thought like for a long time, is that usually the stuff that like, if I see like some really ugly shoes or something and then they become a trend, a lot of the time like Uggs or something or Crocs, you see them for the first time, you're like, that's ridiculous, that looks so dumb, but then it blows up and it becomes popular, and then you're like, no, but I do kind of actually like them. I try and find stuff that like for like character designs or plot points or something where my like first reaction is like, nah, but then you go, but what if? I think something like Weapons, the movie, does that really well this year, I thought, because otherwise if you're only kind of emulating stuff that you already thought was cool, you end up with like very cookie cutter stuff. I was thinking of like this very like bland fantasy. Yeah, exactly. So one trick is to like kind of try out something that you're kind of like, I don't know if I like that, and then go like, okay, but maybe after a little while you're like, maybe this is actually really cool, because that's what, when you get something that's unique to you, and that's what you want. You want to be unexpected, and you want people to be able to look at your work and go, there's something that's distinctly this creator's kind of thing that I can see in it. And that doesn't mean everything has to be similar, but it just has to like feel like it comes from a point of view and a personality. And then I would say maybe like one big one, especially with Mouthwashing and How Fish is Made, I like to write about negative emotions a lot, and I try and be as truthful about those topics as possible, because that's the only way people are going to be able to relate to that stuff, and that's how you're going to be able to write about something that's interesting. So like I've always said in interviews that like, because people tend to ask me like, oh, do you see yourself in like Anya or something? And I'm like, sure, yeah, I do, but I see myself in all the characters, and especially Jimmy. And I always have to like say, I have never done anything like Jimmy has. That's the like extrapolation process again. I take the negative parts of myself and I go, okay, how do I portray this emotion or circumstance or personality trait, but make it like the worst and the fantasy version of that. So, you know, I can be snappy at coworkers, but he's like a monster to coworkers and stuff like that, or like self-pitying or something like that. So there's a lot of my personality in Jimmy. It's like my worst traits put into a character.
It's so cool to hear you express that, because I think for me, when I played, you put yourself onto these characters, you project onto them a little bit, and I think everybody thinks at first they're like, oh, I'm like Jimmy, or like, and then you're like, I really don't want to be like Jimmy. But for me personally, Swansea was who I identified with as somebody who is a parent and has a family, but seeks sometimes these like self-destructive habits and things like that. Like if we're talking about like the worst version of ourselves projected onto somebody, this Swansea monologue just like, I think the last time I cried playing a game was I played the original The Last of Us for the first time as soon as COVID started, and that got me. Like the beginning of that game got me. I was a fresh new parent. Like it really with me. Swansea monologue is just so well written in its like prose and the way that it like visualizes this feeling of like, I love my family, but I love this like deep, dark part of me even more. And the more I deny that, the more I resent that. And it's just like, there are so many people that I feel like can relate with that. And yeah, Swansea's monologue just absolutely like wrecked me. I'm like holding it back now. It's so good. I appreciate you for creating something that seems like it was for me, but I know it's not. But I think that's really the sign of like great writing and great narrative, is the ability to either project completely or not at all. The bar for writing in video games is like, if it's not the worst thing I've ever heard, it's pretty good, right? You kind of see yourself in a little bit of all of the characters. For my own selfish knowledge here, is Swansea based on anybody or a amalgam of people you know, or where like that character in particular is super fascinating?
Swansea is the character who is the most based on me, I would say. I mean, I guess that's also surprising because he's like a middle-aged, old, grumpy man. It's in a lot of ways, like, I feel like I've been told that I look very like friendly and nice, and I think that might be true because people ask me for directions a lot outside, and I never know where I am or where I'm going, but I tend to talk really like, kind of like Swansea. I have kind of a crass sense of humor and stuff like that, so he was like very easy to write.
That is interesting to hear. Yeah, there's something super relatable about that.
It's not just the way that he talks, but it was easy. He was always really fun to write because it was always like just come up with some really dumb for him to say like and stuff. I've dealt with addiction in my life, so he is very literally kind of based. So which is why I think the monologue was so easy to write, because that was one of the realizations that I had, which I think you might be talking about as well, and that is the nature of addiction. It's destroying you, and you know it's destroying you. Like my situation was that like I was having this dream opportunity, you know, our own game studio. We had like investment. We had a great place to work from and everything, and I had managed to like straight out of school start our own studio. I was able to work on a game that I could come up with, write myself entirely, design the characters however I wanted. I had co-workers that were like super supportive, but something in you just wants to tear it apart. And that's what it is. And then, yeah, that's what that monologue is about. And I think people who haven't had to deal with addiction sometimes come away from that monologue being like, oh, it's a pro-alcoholism monologue. And I'm like, I get it. They don't have the like...
It's hard for me to even picture that, but you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, if you don't have the reference, like I can understand how you would read it that way. Yeah, it's like, why would anyone be an addict unless it was really fun in some like gruesome, horrible way? Even though I am sort of living this dream life with this job that I have, it is still a job. It's still stressful. So, and then I feel like guilty sometimes, complaining like, oh, I'm stressed at work, when literally all like what I have to go to do at work is like color. And I'm like, because I've had jobs that I've hated before. So you feel guilty if you feel stressed out and bad in a job that like so many people like saw their arms off to have. But it's the reality of it is that it is still a job. It is still stressful. And sometimes like all you want is to like live as this like depraved thing that doesn't have any responsibilities or anything like that. And that's kind of what like alcohol or substances or whatever cross that line into being an addict. One thing that I'm sort of experiencing now is that like we've had this hit game, and a lot of people, you know, like they come to you and they praise you. Oh, you must be so happy with that now. And this is kind of where you see where like my sort of negative worldview. I'm a very negative person. I try and work on that. It's not something I'm proud of, but like obviously I'm very happy with the success of Mouthwashing. Now that like goblin, I'm sorry to your people.
There's a reason I do this.
The like goblin brain that, you know, whispers to you silently, to me goes like, well, if you can't follow up Mouthwashing, then people are being like, oh, she wrote one game. Yeah, she can do one thing and that's it. That's my fear now, and that's its own kind of pressure as well. So like while I'm very happy with the success, of course, it also brings along with it like this weird pressure that you're like, and I keep trying to tell myself like, okay, well, if the next thing fails, it fails. Like if I look at other artists and there's like maybe an album I like by some artist, if the next album I don't like, I'm just like, whatever. Yeah.
That's funny because I made the comparison because Wrong Organ is now in their second album. How Fish is Made was an EP, like a couple songs, and then Mouthwashing's the LP. Now it's album 2. And in the music industry, album 2 is terrifying because you have your whole life to be inspired and write the best thing you possibly can for EP album. And then album 2 is everything you learned and all the pressure of the success from the first one, and now you have to do something even better. How the are we supposed to do that? We didn't even think this one was going to be good, right?
Exactly.
So not to tack it on, but I believe in you all. I've seen what you're working. I believe in you. Your fan base is rabid. They love, like, for better or worse, right? Right, of what you do. You have a base level of people that will appreciate what you do, probably no matter what. I mean, I'm sure there is, like, if you know, you could do. So what's next?
We wanted to kind of think about kind of what we just talked about, sort of our identity as a studio, and like what we want to keep consistent, and what are things that we want to try different things with, is sort of the theme that our decision was based around. So we're going to do something completely different next. It won't be narrative led. That decision was made because the pressure was so high on me during mouthwashing. So I absolutely had like quite a strong period of burnout after mouthwashing, especially in the writing department. So we thought, okay, well, we won't do something that's like narrative led next. But the other like reason was that like we have this big team of gameplay designers and programmers and stuff that, of course, they did amazing work on mouthwashing, but they weren't like able to flex, I would say. Yeah, in the same way that I was able to with the writing and the art. So we were like, okay, now it's your guys' turn, because this company is all of our dreams. Not going to be just me and the projects that I want to make. It's going to be more gameplay driven, not narrative focused. Obviously, I still work here, so it'll have writing in it.
There's words.
Yeah, there's words in the game.
That's exclusive. Wrong Word is next game has words in it.
Whoa.
And a camera system.
Yeah, we're going crazy. I think it'll be very unexpected. We try and say nowadays in all the interviews, just kind of set expectations that, you know, it won't be mouthwashing too. Yeah. And I don't think there ever will be a mouthwash. I mean, never say never.
It's a group effort. Undeniably, the narrative is the draw of mouthwashing. So for you to take a back seat and say, like, I want other people to, when you could probably not very easily, but, you know, it doesn't have to be that way. Wrong Organ could be a narrative game studio all the time, and, you know, you could continue to work yourself to the bone to figure it out and make good stuff. But having the ability and the kindness, real leadership, to sit back and say, let's give these other people a chance, an opportunity, and I will support them on that. So I think that's incredible. It's good stuff.
We sort of discussed was that it's always important for us to have this sort of identity as a studio. We don't necessarily want to be seen as, you know, the narrative studio. We just want people to be like, oh, these games feel like a Wrong Organ product. And that kind of essence is absolutely going to be in the next game. It's going to be weird. It's going to be odd, and you know, people might like it or might not like it. Mouthwashing fans end up not liking our next game. I'm like, you know, that's fair.
Other fans, other
and like maybe like we might reach new people. There's people who just don't like narrative games at all. Right. I always say, like, you're not gonna find pretty much anything in mouthwashing. If you don't like narrative games, it's just not for you. That's fine. But then maybe those people will come to our next game and like that. Bragarsana is going good, so we're excited to show it up when it gets here.
Yeah, I think it's great to round yourself out as a studio. Like you're maintaining an identity, but you're showing that, like, the two really effective parts of a game to me are, you know, a good narrative and like something that's like fun to play, an engaging gameplay loop that like really brings you in. And when you have a game that delivers its narrative in a way that has to be like an interactive experience, that's like the magic.
After this next game, I think the ideal, and we have no idea what we're gonna do after this next game. Like, we've been throwing around ideas. In the future, I think our goal is to have like this marriage between gameplay and narrative be like kind of 50-50. We always use Metal Gear Solid as our sort of yardstick, where it's like it's very gameplay focused, but it's also very narrative focused. So I think if we can reach that equilibrium, I think that's where we're really gonna hit our stride, hopefully.
Well, it's been really awesome having this chat. I really appreciate you taking the time and bringing our friend Curly here to chat as well. Curly,
he did survive.
He did. He's good. He's
here. He got to Earth.
Give me the Pokey rap from Pokemon there, buddy. There you go. I really appreciate the time again, and good luck.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.